Wow, new place, new face. Sergeant America here. Boom. Next to me, the man supreme, John, J-O-N. The letters keep going on, but I don't have time. Next to him, Ken, the professor of knowledge on the internet. What we have here is a little bit of a talk about Thunderbolts. Some of us know a lot, some of us know some, and some of us are pure virgins. So what we're going to do is talk a little bit about, I would say, why do we like Thunderbolts? And since you picked it up from the very start, do you have a reason
what drew me to it?
Yeah.
What drew me to it? Right. When I first started collecting comics, you guys flash back to the 90s. Onslaught event was on deck, just happened. So that's about when I started picking up comics anyway, so the intrigue of the event was right there. And of course, you guys, as you know from my various rants across the internet, I'm all about the bad guys. So meeting this team was a welcome treat for me. And just the shock value. So it was a team of heroes, all the other heroes are absent across the world, so the Thunderbolts step in to help. And then it's revealed shortly after their introduction that it's a group of bad guys. And it's just a ploy to take over the world. But what a cool concept. Is the notion itself original? No. But was the delivery new to the Marvel Universe? Absolutely. This team is iconic. The whole comic line is just, it's a fun adventure. Like any other story arc or book volume, I guess is a better term for it. It has its ups and downs. There's strengths and weaknesses. Kind of some dumb moments. God, yeah, it did. But
we'll explore that because there is multiple volumes. I mean, that's the thing too that we need to keep in mind is it's a progressive story and sometimes almost a cyclical cycle of story. So
right off the bat, love it. Thunderbolts issue #1, signed by Mr. Kurt Busiek. Got to meet him. He called me a bad person because I haven't read some of his other books, so that was awesome to have a really blunt conversation with him. That was pretty sweet. So I got that in green signed, but they also made a variant in purple, or pink, #1, and of course I had to get that as well. You know how I like my covers. So just the iconic team though, you guys, Songbird, Citizen V, except, Atlas, I just, all of them, love them. And just the cover itself, it's cool, it's exciting. If I was to pick one comic off the shelf right now, it would probably be this one. Because it's exciting, it's fun, it's a good time.
Did you know these characters going in?
Prior to it, no.
Alright.
No.
So, but they are established characters.
Yes.
So they're kind of C-list, D-list?
Yeah.
So.
And it's just a way to take a person that's maybe a 3 and turn him into a 10.
Yeah.
And just the effect that some of these characters have throughout Marvel history from this point on forward is just astounding to me. It's really, it's cool, like Moonstone and the Dark Avengers. I'm not biased or anything, but that's kind of awesome. So that was cool. But one other thing that happened was we had a true dose of heroicism introduced. Issue 4 of the Thunderbolts is actually one of the highly sought out issues. It's the first appearance of Jolt. And I also got this one signed by Kurt as well. So I absolutely love this issue because she was like Jubilee in the X-Men 90s cartoon, just flamboyantly good, and everybody's like, God, this chick's annoying. But she turns out to be like one of the most badass characters on the team. It was a great addition, and it was fun to see that kind of, all 6 of them are like, oh, we're kind of bad guys, but, she's kind of awesome. So it's hard, it was a hard dynamic to pull off, and they did it. The creative team did it, and they did it well. So I love that.
This was a time when I was not collecting comics, so I mean, I didn't even know about this team when I went to look at some back issues. For me, because I didn't know who they were, it didn't really spark for me until the team started changing. Yeah. After the main twist at the first 10 issues, Zemo reveals that he is, or Citizen 5 reveals that he's Baron Zemo. Yeah. This allows them to do some bad shenanigans, still be under the government's support, and it of course winds into the case of they are bad, they do get exposed, and then Hawkeye takes over the team.
Yep.
A former villain himself who becomes an Avenger, who then wants to make the Thunderbolts his next pet project, and show that there's a redemption point for something like this.
Yep.
And at that point, how did you feel about having Hawkeye take over?
It was actually really cool. So that exact dynamic, this guy is just full of experience and tactics. The Thunderbolts were a little resistant at first, like, what are we possibly going to learn from the gimmick Archer from, you know, the Avengers, which he still gets to this day. So, sorry, man. Shout out to Clint Barton. So anyways, the dynamic, though, grew because he showed them things about teamwork, accountability, was a mentor to some of them, although Moonstone still played him like a fiddle, like she always does, but that's her character. Shout out Dark Avengers, whatever. But he even got in the limelight at some point with the team, with the press, like, it's just a bunch of bad guys now with Hawkeye in charge, you know. So it was really a quest for redemption, a struggle to really make sure that they knew, hey, we're good guys, we're doing good things. There was a lot of inner turmoil within the team, like, we originally started out bent on world domination, and instead we're hanging out with this kid that has volcano-like powers. What? You know, so it was a cool time in the book for me, but it was also kind of a weird time with some of those extra characters on there. Yeah.
And of course, the team ran well. I think it carried a lot of that regular Marvel magic up until I think it was before Civil War. Mm-hmm. They decided to change up leadership. I think Hawkeye was busy. Would he have been dead after Avengers disassembled at that point? All right. Yeah. Possibly. It's in my recollection. I'm sure somebody will correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong. Yeah. At that point, they put Norman Osborn in there. Once again, a story of redemption. Norman Osborn, the criminal, well known for his spider antics, then becomes the leader of the team. Yep. This probably ushered into the time that I enjoyed it the most. I know that John devilishly enjoys to devour those issues also. Yep. And at that point, they go back to being bad guys. They do all the good guy things they need to do. They figures into Civil War, so they're used to capture heroes. This was a big fighting point between Captain America and Iron Man. Mm-hmm. That villains were being used to capture heroes. So that was one of the things that I really thought escalated the book, made it into something that I liked. This is when I started getting into the reading of it, and I was just digging the wonderful, seeing this team just take down one D-list superhero after another, because at first they have trouble even bringing down just the smallest, Steel Spider. Yeah. I'm sure many of you don't know the name. It's because he was a minor character, and they had trouble bringing him down, so they said, if we can't do this, how are we going to bring down Captain America? At this point, this is a team now that are full of really nasty people that hate each other. Because you have Venom, Moonstone, Bullseye, who was kept in hidden reserve. Yeah. But then you do have your Songbird, your Radioactive Man, who at this point was becoming, I think, a really great anti-hero. Yeah. And it was just interesting to watch
the chemistry of all of them was so weird.
So there were these guys.
Penance. That was another.
Penance, yeah. So there were ones that wanted to be heroes. Yeah. There were people that were truly villains. And the way that they made them interact under the fist of Norman Osborn, I think, was wonderful. Yeah. Of course, as this storyline fed into Secret War, or no, all right,
Secret Invasion.
Secret Invasion. Thank you. This is where we get Norman Osborn pulling the trigger on the Skrull Queen. At that point, he's pulled before the President and then Congress, and he is then made the leader of the Avengers. At that point, the Avengers were totally torn apart. Tony Stark has been destroyed, basically, in the eyes of the media and the government.
How could you let the Secret Invasion happen?
Yeah. Yep. And so with that, we see there is still the Thunderbolts, but the Dark Avengers step forward and make this, most of the Thunderbolts, people that were the cream of their crop, rose to the top. Right. Everybody else was a Thunderbolt. Yeah. And at this point, Thunderbolts get a little weird and wicked, in my opinion. Yeah. This stories then start getting a little dark. They start having to fight agents of Atlas. Yeah. Their actions are definitely more dark, more covert. And the Thunderbolts, are doing as many questionable things as possible. At this point, you're truly cheering for the villains. And it was, I think, probably, once again, continues to grow in the great Norman Osborn storyline. Him as the leader. It was a little bit less contact with Norman, so that they were almost like a pack of dogs let free and running loose. You're talking Headsman, the Black Widow, who's blonde. You got Ghost, who is an Iron Man villain, and I'm trying to think, Headsman, who I didn't really know much, but I really liked him. And then Ant-Man, O'Grady style. And so, I mean, he's a wise talker. Him and Paladin also together made this great dynamic where they would talk about Rockford Files and not doing anything unless they're getting paid. So that I thought was, they really got into the characters. Each one had a unique voice, and it was a really great series at that point. Well, of course, all great things must come to an end. Norman Osborn is exposed for being a true criminal. The Thunderbolts are disbanded at a point. The Dark Avengers are torn asunder, and new Avengers are back in place. And at that point, Thunderbolts, almost everybody's in jail.
Yeah.
So this then becomes, once again, like we mentioned, as we saw with Clint Barton, Hawkeye, here comes Luke Cage, a reformed prisoner, man who was unjustly brought into prison, and he is going to be now the leader of the Thunderbolts. They use most of the same Thunderbolt characters, add a couple new ones in that they've recruited actually from the jail. They almost do like a Suicide Squad thing with they have transplants in their brains, so there's things that lock down.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
We weren't expecting anyone.